What's up? Is anybody there? Okay. I think I'm live. Kerry Todd, what's up, man? I didn't even know you followed my channel. It's been a long time. Rich, Cultural Dweeb, what up? Martin, hey, what's up? Lester, Apologetics Thug Life, what up, man? Abraham, you guys don't know Apologetics Thug Life? You guys should check out his channel too. His channel's dope. Roy, what up? Justin, what's up? Vocab Malone in the house. If anybody doesn't know Vocab Malone, too, make sure you subscribe to Vocab channel. Vocab knows more about the Hebrew Israelites than most people, for sure. I mean, if he's probably one of the leading voices on the Hebrew Israelites. And so if you have any questions about Hebrew Israelites and all that stuff, Vocab is the man. Kerry, thanks, man. I appreciate that compliment. Kerry's one of my atheist friends. We used to debate online. Probably I haven't been debating online for a couple of years, but we used to debate online a lot. So, Kerry, it's good to read from you, man. I appreciate the compliments. I'm glad you enjoyed the channel. Cultural Dweeb says, "How do I know vocab?" I know vocab from David Wood. Actually, David Wood approached me to work on some stuff for his channel and stuff like this, and we were contemplating starting like doing skits together and stuff. And then he told me he introduced me to vocab. He told me to hook up with vocab. He said he's another guy that's really funny and stuff like this. So he's like, yeah, he just introduced us, and then we started, working on skits and stuff together. And me and vocab just click. Whenever we're working on something together, we don't have to like talk too much. We don't have to think too much. We just click. So it's good to have that kind of chemistry with someone. Let's see. Capturing Christianity. Cameron, how can you be as cool as me? Well, Capturing Christianity is also another good one. One of my good friends, Cameron, he's got a pretty cool page where he hosts debates between atheists and religious people. It's kind of like the video version of the podcast Unbelievable. So it's really good. All right, guys. So let's see. A lot of comments coming in. And before I get started, I just want to say thanks everybody so much for all the support. I think we broke 7,000 subscribers yesterday. So that's really cool. And this page started in December. So it's really cool to just see how things are going. And I'm really happy. So I appreciate everybody's support and the love. I mean, you guys are dope. Appreciate it. Oh yeah, also, before I forget too, I just want to give a quick shout out to my super Patreons, Myron Highsmith, Scott Roberts, Matthew, and Christian Rasal. Sorry if I didn't say the last name right. But anyways, you guys have really helped support this page and really helping things get rolling for me, so that way I can spend more time doing videos instead of other stuff I got to do. So really appreciate the support on Patreon. To everybody else too that supported me on Patreon, really appreciate it. It's really hard. Like I don't think people realize, it kind of seems like if you just have a channel, you just upload a quick video and then it doesn't take any time and it's really easy. And that's what I thought until I started a channel. Starting a channel takes a lot of work, and anybody that has a channel will tell you it takes a lot of time and a lot of work. And so having that kind of balance between work, your channel, your family life, and all that is something that's really tough to kind of put together sometimes. So anyways, appreciate the support from you guys. Also, another thing I want to say is what I'm planning on starting to do is after every time I post a video, I'm going to do what I'm going to call a power hour, where after every video, I'm going to spend the first hour right when I post it responding to every comment that I can for that first hour. So I'm going to start doing the power hour. So that's something you guys, that's something you guys are interested in, then yeah, make sure you let me know. Let's see. Roy says, do I know Jeff Durbin? I don't know Jeff Durbin personally. Vocab does. Oh, maybe he was talking to Vocab. All right, let's see. All right, let's hop on. You guys send me in your questions that you got. Send me any questions that you guys got, and I'll get to them. I'm going to start with the Twitter right now because people sent questions on Twitter a little bit ago. So let me go check the Twitter. Mitchell Rose says, Kanye West, good or bad for culture? Mitchell is another one of my boys. I've known him only online, though, through doing apologetics and stuff online. But what I'd say about Kanye is, I don't know how I would say Kanye is good or bad for culture. What I will say though is that seeing Kanye kind of bring this out, I'm really happy that he said what he said, because it opened the conversation, especially with a lot of this political censoring. And like Candace Owens talks a lot about this, and it was good that Kanye got together with her or something like that, however they got together, so that way they could start, or so that way Kanye had the, he was able to just kind of let people know about the censoring that's going on. And it's really intense, like in culture too. And it's one of those things that I think we need to talk about, and the reason why is because if people aren't aware of what's going on, it just seems normal. And I think that's one of the things, like, if you don't know any better, you're just like, these type of things that people say when they say that they're moral and they say that they're good, those things just seem normal to everybody. They seem really properly basic. They seem like just things that you can't question or anything like that. And the thing is, if we're ever going to progress in a society, or we're going to progress even independently, we have to be able to start questioning assumptions, and we have to have the freedom to do so. So if people shut down your freedom to question things, then that leads to a whole lot of stuff. You can look at like the regimes in Russia and stuff like this too, the Soviet Union regimes and all this too. That's the kind of stuff that happens when people start censoring you. And I love being able to say that I'm in a place where there is free speech, because when you go outside of the US, and a lot of these places, most of the places, there's no such thing as free speech. So if we take that away, then we lose our ability to be able to rationalize and grow together as a culture. So I think it's really important, especially to attack bad ideas like postmodernism, is a really bad concept that I think is really, really, really influential in society. So let's see, who is your favorite? Who's your favorite philosopher? My favorite philosopher is, oh man, probably Jesus. And the reason I say that is because if you really look at the way that Jesus argues, Jesus was really, really, really brilliant, and he was a very good debater. He understood the culture and the context that he was in, and that's something. I mean, there's so much that you can take away from Jesus if you just study the way that he thought, the way that he handled people. Like, for example, he wasn't afraid to go against popular opinion if he thought that the popular opinion was wrong. But he didn't get his value from that too. So like sometimes he would get in some like heated arguments and discussions with like the Pharisees and the Sadducees and stuff like this. But he would always do it in a way where he wasn't getting his value from it. And I think that's important, because today, a lot of us, it's really easy for our sin nature to kind of pop in, and we start getting our value from being right or dominating others or anything like that. So that's important. And also, I love how Jesus spoke passionately about the importance of truth and the danger of error. And that's something that I think we all need to really encompass. Truth is very important. And once we start compromising the truth, then we start compromising the truth about Jesus, of course, because Jesus said, I am the truth. But we start compromising all kinds of things that really give us our structure for society and for communication and for everything else. And you just think about all the mess that comes from postmodern type thinking. But what was also good about that is Jesus would give evidence in support of his truth claims. So I love when like John the Baptist was questioning if Jesus was really the Messiah. And so instead of Jesus saying like, suppress your doubts, just have faith and all this, which is kind of like the impulse that a lot of people take today. Instead, what Jesus did was he sent the disciples and said, go report to John that you've seen these miracles and everything else I did, so that way he knows that I am he, right? And so you have a lot of instances of this with Jesus in the Bible. Jesus always assumed that your beliefs should fit reality and that they should fit the evidence. And I think that's really important as well, because Christianity, I believe, is true because it corresponds with reality. It tells the true story of the way reality really is. And so that's what I think, for me personally, what convinces me of the truth of Christianity, because I just don't see that in other religions. So, for example, you can take Mormonism. They have the Book of Mormon, the Pearl of Great Price, Doctrine and Covenants, all these kind of scriptures, right? But if you look at the Book of Mormon and you look to all the people and places and events that took place in the Book of Mormon, we don't find any of those people, places, or events, we can't find any evidence for those in archaeology and in history and anything like this, right? With the exception of the things that he copied from the Bible, that Joseph Smith copied from the Bible. So that's so we can know with certainty that Mormonism is false because it doesn't correspond with the way things really are. If you guys aren't aware about Mormonism, just kind of the basic idea is Joseph Smith in 1830, he published the Book of Mormon, which was said to be a document of the ancient inhabitants of America. So he said that, for example, like the Lamanites are Native Americans who were cursed with darker skin, but they were the Israelites that were cursed with darker skin, which would be today's Native Americans. And now we know this is false for all kinds of reasons. Like one, we know, for example, that Native Americans came from the southeast part of Asia. You also have DNA evidence that shows that the lineage between Israelites and the so-called Lamanites doesn't exist, given the mitochondria DNA. And then you have all kinds of stuff, like we don't, there's supposed to be a huge battle in the hill of Cumorah, some people say. But anyways, with that, we don't find any bones on the hill or anything like that. And there's supposed to be a battle where like all these thousands and thousands or whatever people died. So anyways, that's how we know that Mormonism is false. Now, it's one thing to say like we're missing some pieces, and that's to be expected when you're looking at ancient history. But it's quite another thing to be like, we're missing the full picture. We're not just missing some puzzle pieces, we're missing the full picture, And so that's what I think Christianity is really beautiful in the fact that every single day, I can't remember the exact statistic, but it's something like there's over like 20 new archaeological finds every single day. And if you look to Christianity today, I know that they have like the top every year. They have the top archaeological finds that correspond with Christianity and the Bible, because there's a lot of stuff that they believed, that was false in the Bible. Like for example, like King David's existence and Solomon, they said his status wasn't elevated, and you have all these things, and then we find things that correspond with that. So, yeah, let's see what else we got here. Oh yeah, before I forget too, what was also good about Jesus is when people doubted, he didn't shut them down, and he didn't shun them and cast them to hell and say, you're going to hell, suppress your doubts and have faith in me. Instead, he gave them the evidence. And if you notice though, he never used like illicit power, threats, or corrosion or manipulation in order to or over people. And instead, what he did was he would show them evidence, give them evidence, whatever they needed at that time, or he would lead them to conclusions by asking them questions, which is another thing that's really great. Because I believe like asking questions is huge when you're having discussions with people. You don't want to just throw out facts on people all the time when you're in discussions. You want to actually ask them questions to get to the heart of what it is that their problem is, right? That their issue is, or their objection. You want to get to the heart of it, and then you want to ask them questions that lead them to the conclusion. So that way they can work it through themselves. Because if you're just giving people answers all the time, then they're going to get defensive and they're just going to push them away, and they're not going to have to work through them. People really like these kind of shortcuts and these slogans and these cliches that they can hold to. So, but anyways, I could go on and on about Jesus too. Like even how he refused to, or he escaped the horns of the dilemma, like in Matthew 22, when he was approached by the Pharisees and the Herodians, and they were asking him. They said, "Should we pay taxes?" Now Jesus was smart enough to know that in this cultural context, if he said that, or if he went with the Pharisees and didn't affirm paying taxes, then he'd be considered a dangerous zealot, and he would be looked at as a person that was defending the violent revolution that was going against the state. But if he did say that that we should be paying taxes to Caesar, then he would look like a sellout to the others that that were at that time too, to his followers. He looked like a sellout to the secular and ungodly powers. So instead, what Jesus did was he refused to be trapped. They're like, either we're paying taxes or you're not. Which one is it? And Jesus refused to be pinned down there. So he responded by saying, "Give to Caesar what's Caesar's, and give to God what's God's." And it was so brilliant, because what he did too was he gave Caesar authority under God without making Caesar God, because at that time, like, Caesar was considered God, right? So he was really smooth with how he did it. So there's a lot of wisdom that you can get from following Jesus. So I encourage everybody to study Jesus really carefully and see how he argued, because I just learn so much from him every time I read him. All right, let me take a look here. No, I'm behind. Sorry, guys, I'm rambling on. Um, yeah, postmodern. This is by Escatabo Constantine. So I can't really read that. It's small. It says postmodern thought is actually inherently the opposition of the Christian worldview, and that's right. If the postmodernism is a rejection of structure and objective truth, then it is in contrast to Christianity, which says that there is an objective truth that you can find. All right, let's see. How do you know Islam is false? I think that, for one, I think that the evidence for the resurrection is really powerful. So there's a positive argument for Christianity. And if Christianity is true, then it goes against Islam, for one. And then there's just man, I could talk about this all day too. There's a lot of problems with the conception of God on Islam, and this when you get into like philosophy and stuff like this too, you start seeing there's a lot of problems with the concept of God. One thing too is like even God being like, for example, God is not all loving in Islam too, and then so you have these kind of things where the Trinity affirms God being loving. Because you have the nature of the three persons in the Godhead, you have this unity. So they were all loving before creation, so they didn't have to create. In Islam, God would have had to create in order to love. So he wouldn't even know love without creation because there was nothing else to love. So anyways, that's one thing. There's a whole lot of things, like especially when you look into the hadiths and, especially the hadiths. I think Shias have a little bit of they have a different set of hadiths. But Shia, I have a good friend who's a Shia, and his views are a lot more consistent than a lot of the Sunni beliefs, I think, too. But I still think it's false, and I think it's demonstrably false. So, do you believe the Earth is round from settled entropy? Yes, I believe the Earth is round. I know there's a lot of people that have these kind of conspiracy views and stuff with the Earth being flat and stuff. I just don't believe that. I just don't buy them. Sorry, guys. I know people are going to get offended when I say that, but it's the truth. You want me to be honest? Do you know of a Christian YouTube channel called Inspiring Philosophy? It has great content. Yes, it's from Jose Martinez. Yes, I do. Me and him, I've talked to him a little bit. We've been trying to plan on see what we can do together. So we're going to do something together. We just aren't exactly sure what to do together yet. And he's been kind of busy with preparation for another video and stuff. But I need to reach out to him again and get something done with him. Also with Stephen Bancars, if anybody's familiar with him, he's another guy that we've been talking about doing some videos together, but we haven't got to it yet. So let's see. All right, let's see. Someone asked about Godot says about young Earth. I think what he's asking is, I mean, I get this question all the time. Do I believe in a young Earth or old Earth, or do I believe in evolution and all this stuff? Or what's my view on theology? Am I a Calvinist, a Molinist, all this stuff? My kind of view on this, honestly, is I definitely have my views on all these. But the thing is, I think a lot of times this is almost like that example of Jesus I just gave. People are trying to get you in a trap to either get you to affirm what they believe, and then everybody else kind of flips out, right? Or these other people are looking for a reason to write you off and to say that you're not a true Christian or something like that. And honestly, I just think that this is another example of our sin nature, how it really inflates us, where we feel like we just look down on people for things that we may think is a big deal, but aren't even overly stressed biblically in some kind of ways too. So I try to stay away from these just for the sake of that. I mean, I'm sure you guys all saw too, my video on tattoos, where me, Vocab, and David Wood answered what we thought about tattoos. And none of us have talked about this before too. So it wasn't some kind of conspiracy or something like this, but we gave our arguments for it, and a lot of people disagreed. And that's fine. I think this is one of those areas where Paul says there's room for disagreement, like what he's talking about in Romans. But these are the kind of things that when you talk about these things, people are going to kind of flip out on you, and people are going to call you a heretic and all this stuff. And to me, I'd rather avoid that, especially with my Christian brothers and sisters, unless it's something that relates to, or that's essential to salvation. Something like that, I definitely, will that if I, if it's that important, it's definitely worth talking about. But some of this other stuff are distractions that can distract people away from your ministry and away from the work you're doing and all this other stuff. So I just rather not get into that a lot of time. Who knows? Maybe in the future I'll change my mind, but as of right now, that's kind of my view on it. All right, let's see. So let me go back. I know I missed some. I'm going to scroll back up for you guys that asked questions earlier. Let's see. JSB says, why does every apologist always sit in front of tons of books in their videos? That's kind of funny. Actually, so I just moved to a new place because my wife's pregnant. She's 7 months pregnant now. Going on 7 months pregnant. And we already have one little boy. And so we needed to move to a place that was a little bigger, 2 bedrooms, and so this place, there wasn't like a whole lot of, it's kind of how it's set up. I was like, now I have one wall for my books, which is really good. So, and then ahead, there's these lights. And so I took out the lights and I put in like some lights that are good for recording. And so it actually just fits just perfect. So that's one of the reasons I've been recording in front of my bookshelf. There's also a blank wall right here, which I'll use sometimes too. For when I record my videos, when I go back to the style that I had right before the books. But I think probably the reason why is because we're lovers of books. I mean, we read books constantly. We're always keeping we're always trying to sharpen our knowledge and learn more things. And so I've got a good amount of books, but Vocab has way more books than me. And that kind of blows my mind because when I went to his place, I was like, man, he actually has way more books than me. The library I saw that was the biggest library, I'd say, is Craig Blomberg's library. Dr. Craig Blomberg, if you guys are familiar with him, he's a historian, teaches at Denver Seminary. And Doug Grotheis has a lot too. They both do, and they both teach at Denver Seminary. But they both have a ridiculous amount of books. And what is amazing to me about Craig Blomberg is when I went into his office too, when we shot that video together, I went into his office and at Denver Seminary, and all these books, I mean, it was insane. They were everywhere. And like all the ones that I could see, at least when I was just going quick, were on the historicity of Jesus. So it was insane because you have all these books that are on like the Gospels and the historicity of Jesus and the reliability of the Bible and all this other stuff. And so he's a very, very well-read man. And his book, this book, the historical reliability of the Gospels, is a really dope book. Also on that topic, I'd say I recommend Michael Kona's book, that big one right there. This one, The Resurrection of Jesus, is a great book that goes through a lot of the evidence for the resurrection of Jesus. And the Kona in that book tries to be as objective as possible. So he tries to say like, he tries to be honest about his bias, and he tries to be honest about the strength of the evidence. And he tries to include most of the evidence that relates to that we have of Jesus in for the early century and stuff like this. But then he tries to rate the strength of the evidence and stuff like that. So it's really good. Let's see. Kind of go down. All right. How can an apologetic be an apologist with? I think Lila is saying, how can apologists be an apologist without books? Yeah. Too is like honestly, what's more important than books is thinking correctly, in my opinion. I think that if you can understand how to think, you can work your way through a lot of stuff despite the knowledge. Because the truth of the matter is, a lot of people haven't. They don't know why they say what they say or why they believe what they believe. People just don't. That's true for the vast majority of people. I do a lot of talking with a lot of people about God and stuff like that in my daily life. And what I found is that people haven't thought their views through well at all. I have a very complex kind of model that I think makes sense that I worked on with my friend. His name's Joey Fukumoto. And we've worked on a model where we explain all this, but it's kind of complex. I don't think here's the appropriate time to go through it. But asking people questions, just ask people questions. Like I think one of the things where apologists could get better is instead of just like data dumping on people. So instead of like talking to somebody and be like, you don't believe in Jesus? Here's a whole bunch of data. First ask them questions. You don't need all this data to be able to have good discussions with people. You're showing genuine interest in what it is that they believe and why they believe it. And when you trace people back, most of the time, you're going to find that they don't have good reasons for why they believe what they believe. And this is true of everybody. This isn't. It's not just to non-Christians. This is true of a lot of Christians too. But I think apologists at least kind of have the data to go with it, and that's when I think you can be optimal, because you know how to think correctly, and it's very simple. So if you guys haven't read Greg Koukl's Tactics, I would recommend that. The book is called Tactics by Greg Koukl, and in the book he really kind of talks about how you want to ask people two questions mainly whenever you're talking with them. You're going to say, how did you come to that, or what do you mean by that? So you want to get clarity. So when people say God, say I don't believe in God, or they say there's no evidence for God, you want to ask them what they mean by that. Like, what do you mean there's no evidence for God, right? Because realistically, they could have some weird conception of God or evidence. They have a faulty conception of God or evidence, and then you want to ask, how did you come to that conclusion? And that's when you're asking epistemically, how did you arrive at that conclusion that you arrived at? And when you do that, you're going to find that people, it kind of does your work for you, honestly. You know what I mean? And so, like, with this whole, I thought about this too, because how that example I gave you, if you guys are just hopping in, I gave an example about how Jesus refused to be trapped by the dilemmas on the horn, where they said, should we pay taxes to Caesar or should we not? And he knew either way he answered, he was going to be in big trouble, right? So he was smart. But the same kind of thing, I think, when everybody was real upset with Justin Bieber's pastor, I can't remember his name, Carl Lentz, when he was asked about homosexuality. Or no, it was abortions or something like that, one of those. He said, they asked him if was abortion a sin. A smart move for him would have been first to ask, what do you mean by sin, right? Because what he's going to say by sin, or what, the Bible, how the Bible describes sin, could be different than a lot of people's conception of sin, right? And so that's why I think that would have been probably the smartest move to start there, instead of just, kind of dodging it however he kind of did, so anyways, that would be my view on that. All right, let's see. White Engine, what up, man? White Engine says you're going to do more takedowns of anti-theists. Well, of course, I have to. Hans Hall says, I'm gay but a Christian. Jesus was a gay like me. You're probably trolling, because I don't think anybody would be as ridiculous to say that Jesus was gay. I thought of something. Fish Hunter, I'm trying to finish your comment here. I just thought of something. Probably 90% of the arguments between Christians are about either origins or end-time prophecy, Genesis or Revelation. Do you think that these topics are more trouble than didn't finish? So once it comes in, I'll try to finish that. Let's see. What else? All right, let me head back to Twitter real quick. You guys keep sending your questions in. Twitter, Mike Stillman Smith. He says, what do you think that even the top intellectual atheists like Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins attack strawman arguments no more sophisticated than common internet atheists? In particular, they think the moral argument is the claim that they can't be good people. First off, where do I even start with this? There's a lot of things to say about this. I will say that Sam Harris, I haven't followed for a while. I've read some of his books. His Letter to a Christian Nation. I have another couple of Sam Harris books. I don't know where they are right now, but I used to really have a view of Sam Harris where I was very, very, very unimpressed. Especially like in the faith book and stuff like this. It was just a rant, which didn't have any substance. It didn't seem like a serious attempt to engage with anything. But I listened to his podcast, and I haven't listened to a whole lot of it because I just don't have time that much. But I listened to his podcast, and I realized that he's getting better. His arguments sound a lot more consistent with me and coherent. So I'll say that was Sam Harris. But as for the view of you need God in order to, with the moral argument, he says you need God in order to be moral. With that, I'd say I want to try to be charitable here. If Dawkins and all them are saying this stuff, it may be because that's what the lay kind of Christian argues, right? This is an apologist that these people are talking to. That's obvious, right? You read The God Delusion, which I have here too, The God Delusion, and all these kind of books. It's obvious they're not talking to apologists, and they don't think that they even want to, right? I mean, they don't think that they have to, because the truth of the matter is, we're actually at a time where Christians are biblically illiterate, with even the Bible, but especially with philosophy and stuff like this. And so there's a lot of things that we need to change. But that would be my view on that. I think when it comes to the intellectual battle, I don't think atheism is that strong at all. I think when we look in academia and places like that, with the debate between Christians and atheists in academia, I just don't find atheism hanging in there that well at all. But I think there's a further problem for atheism in society. I don't think that atheism is ever going to be very, very popular. And the reason why is because, one, I think, and this is, by the way, there's new data out too. And J. Warner Wallace shared a link where they looked at the data from the new atheist movement and showed that they did nothing to increase the amount of atheists in America. The people that became non-religious, those people were already, the trends were already going this way, in other words. So it wasn't due to anything that they did. It didn't do anything to increase atheism in America, which is pretty funny when you think about it, right? But I don't think atheism will ever catch on for a couple reasons. And one of the reasons is that atheism takes away meaning and purpose. And people need meaning and purpose. This is why when people leave Christianity, most of the time, they're not defaulting to atheism. They're defaulting to some sort of postmodernism or some sort of spirituality or something along those lines. And that's important because when we realize that, like atheists aren't the biggest. They're not that big of a threat in society. I don't believe, at least. So that's something to really think about. Yeah. Let's see what else we got. Oops, my bad. All right, let's see. Known Christianity Critiquing Islam says, atheism isn't natural. We know this because not 3% of the world, I think he's saying only 3% of the world are atheists. Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. I don't think it's ever I honestly don't believe it's ever gonna catch on. And if you notice, the only time where people started paying attention to atheism was why? It was following 9/11, and what they were doing was they were ridiculing atheism, and it was really in reaction to people's frustration of Christianity. It wasn't that they were converting people that were already Christians, that were Christians or anything like that. That wasn't it. They were identifying with people's frustrations of experiences that they had with Christians that they didn't like. And so society was already primed for that. So I don't think that it wasn't atheism. And like their arguments, I don't think their arguments are that good. And I don't think that socially people even want atheism. They want something else. They still want, I think the default position is something like moral therapeutic deism. And that's fine. You can learn about that in the book is called Soul Searching. One of these. I gotta get better organized with the books, but the book's called Soul Searching, and they did surveys with all of the youth. I can't even remember the exact statistics, but what they found is that there's a view of God that people have where this God is like he's not personal unless you need him to do something for you, right? And so there's like these 4 points that he has, and I can't remember them off the top of my head. But people like a concept of God that expands and contracts is the way I kind of picture it. Whenever it's comes to that they need something and they need help, God is very personal. Then all of a sudden, God is just like, this cloud that's not personal and kind of just up there, So anyways, that's where culture has a tendency towards an atheism. All right. Let's see. Oh, Yeah. So which apologist is a pain to work with? There hasn't been. I haven't had anybody that's been a pain to work with. Everybody's been really cool, but I'd say the easiest to work with on my channel, at least doing videos, was William Lane Craig and Robert Spencer. William Lane Craig, when I recorded him, I mean, it was insane because like I just talked to him and he's like, okay, got it or whatever. Kind of gave him the whole kind of format of how it goes on my channel, and he didn't think, and he went through the whole thing just so solid. Like even I mean, everything was stacked just right in his head, and then he remembered how to end it and everything else just really perfect. Like William and Craig was incredibly easy to work with. Robert Spencer was really easy to work with too. Robert Spencer, we did like 5 memes that we responded to, and he didn't have to think, and he went through them really precise too, and was very kind of ordered and structured in his head as well. So they were the easiest people to work with. Yeah, I guess in that sense, the only other people that I work with regularly is David Wood and Vocab Malone, and we're all just super tight. And David Wood and Vocab are both super funny. People don't really probably know that, but they're super witty and super funny. So it's just funny because we're always like messing with each other and stuff like this. And we're talking about all this funny stuff. And like me and Wood was talking, he was talking to us last time we were together, and he's like, it would be funny if we had like cameras following us because all this stuff that like goes on and all this stuff is super funny. And it would be, you know, because we have a lot of fun together. So yeah. Okay, Donald Prolux. Hey, bud, love your vids and collaborations with Dave and Vocab. Thank you, man. Have you ever read any pre-Nicene Christian writers like Polycarp, Clement of Rome? Yeah, so I have, especially you get some of it in some of these kind of books too. But as for kind of reading, you know, like a whole lot of them all, I haven't necessarily. Not that I can think of at the top of my head. I don't think I've read like specific books on them or anything like that. Manu, M-A-N-U, says, just tuned in. Thanks for the cool vids, dude. Yeah, no problem, brother. Quick question. What's your favorite metaphysical argument for theism? My favorite argument is the Kalam cosmological argument. And that will always be my favorite argument. And the reason why, well, I guess it doesn't have to always be my favorite argument, but this played a pivotal role in my conversion. I'm eventually going to do a video on my testimony, but long story short, I wasn't raised in a Christian home. We never went to church. I mean, we never went to church or anything like that. So I wasn't raised in a church going home at all. And then when I was 15, I was introduced to this church that was very, very charismatic. And my aunt went there and stuff like that. And so at that point, I went to the church and I just remember kind of like, was like, oh, all these people are having all these, you know, experiences and stuff like this. But then what it was kind of odd is about maybe a year later or 2 years later or something like that. I just didn't, well, actually it wasn't that long. I only went to the church maybe 6 months or something. And I just like I just couldn't buy it anymore because it was all emotion. And there was no, and I was skeptical about a lot of this stuff. And the pastor actually got arrested and went to prison. I can't remember what he even did at this point now. But anyway, so everybody I went to church with deconverted, which was really strange to me too, including my twin brother. I have an identical twin, by the way, and he deconverted. And he still hasn't converted. He hasn't converted back either. So anyways, when I was in college, I took a course on philosophy of religion. And this was funny because I didn't try to take this course. I didn't even know what philosophy was. I wanted to take a world's religion class because I thought it was interesting. But it was already full. So they said, you can take philosophy of religion. And so I was like, well, I guess I will. And if I don't like it, I'll drop out. So I signed up for the class. And we went through all these different arguments for God's existence. And the one that stuck out to me the most was the Kalam cosmological argument. And the reason why is because, for those that don't know what it is, the Kalam cosmological argument says everything that begins to exist has a cause. First premise, the universe began to exist. Second premise, therefore the universe has a cause. And then from that, you deduct what the cause would have to be, the attributes. If the universe had a cause, so by universe, it means all of time, space, and matter. And this is argued both philosophically and scientifically, probabilistically. But anyways, so you have a cause that created the beginning of the universe. But if the cause created all time, space, and matter, then the cause would have to be timeless, spaceless, and immaterial, right? And the only thing that would be able to create something, it couldn't be something that was just sitting there, that was impersonal. It would have to be personal. Because if you have something that's sitting there for all of eternity, like you picture, I don't know, I mean, just picture anything, like a rock, or even though those things aren't physical, but if you have anything that's just sitting there for all of eternity that's not material, then it couldn't do anything different all of a sudden, because it doesn't have personhood, it doesn't have free will, and there's nothing outside of it to be able to influence it, right? So it would have to be personal. That's just one of the ways to argue, but there's a lot of ways. But anyways, what was so impressive to me about this argument is I didn't have to assume God in advance. Like I said, this makes sense to me, and I already had some understanding of physics and where physics were and stuff like this too. And since then, I mean, I study physics. Is probably one of my favorite subjects. I love studying and talking about physics. But what was so amazing to me about that is I was like, this makes sense. You know what I mean? You can't, and I'm not starting with assuming God in advance. And that's what's so amazing to me. I said, you get God from just these facts that we know to be true, or at least the second premise you know is most likely true, you know, given all the scientific facts. But then you have philosophical arguments to make it a lot more plausible, even, you know, close to almost certainly true. But anyways, with that, so anyways, I found that just so impressive. And I remember sitting back one day after thinking about it for a couple of days after we learned it in class, and I was like, I believe in God now. And I just remember just saying that to myself. It's like, I believe in God now. And that was kind of like a light bulb moment for me. And then after that, I went around to these kind of, I was going around to every different church I could find. I even went to like Scientology churches. I went to Mormon churches, Jehovah's Witness churches. And I would try to study their beliefs a little bit before I went to them. But I was doing this for a long time. And while I was studying the different beliefs, I was like searching them and stuff like this. I came across the evidence for the resurrection, Gary Habermas's form. And I started going through it. And then at the end of the semester in philosophy of religion class, I took the class twice, actually. Now I'm talking about the second time. When I say at the end of the second class, I got assigned the job. We had a debate at the end of the semester, and we had to randomly pick from a hat what position we'd be arguing. And I got assigned to argue against the resurrection. And when I went through all of this data and I plowed through these books and stuff like this to try to have the best argument I could against the resurrection, I was like, I can't find my way out of this. You know what I mean? It was very, very hard for me to attack this, given the understanding kind of like the basics of history, of ancient history, and how ancient history is done, and the quality of evidence in ancient history and stuff like that. And that's an important thing. The evidence for the resurrection will not make sense, or will not sound convincing, or the reliability of the Bible might not sound convincing unless you understand the context of why it is significant, given the cultural context and what else we know about ancient history and all that other kind of stuff. But anyways, that was, to me, is like going through that. It helped me right here. Like I was like, intellectually, this makes sense. You know what I mean? And then there was a time later on in life where it actually kind of hit me here too. But I mean, even here, I was just like, it makes sense. I mean, I was like, unless I can think of something else to argue my way out of this, the arguments for Christianity are pretty good. You know what I mean? If I'm being charitable, if I, you know, even going against them, I can't do without cheating. So for me, being consistent is the thing that I value the most, and I try my best to be at all times. So if I'm inconsistent, then I know I'm gonna have to change my views, right? And so being consistent for me with the way that I came to know things, Christianity really lined up with that. So that's in short kind of how I ended up converting to Christianity. All right, let's see. What time is it now? Okay, let's see. I'm a little okay on time. Terrence Highsmith. Yeah, he's one of my super Patreons. What's up, brother? Says, what kind of job do you work, and would you do YouTube full time if you could afford it financially? Yes. It's hard taking care of your family, right, and then spend a lot of time on YouTube. But if I could afford it financially, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have so much in my mind that I want to do. There's so many videos that I want to do. There's so many things that I want to teach people and show people and create. For those that don't know too, is like I've always been a writer, so I like to write novels and stuff like this too. But I always have ideas for for skits and all that. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you've seen a lot of the skits and stuff that I have. So I like to write skits and I like all that kind of stuff. I would just love to dedicate more time, but it's hard financially too. Having the time when you're working, you know what I mean, and working 2 jobs, and so that's tough. But yeah, maybe one day. I mean, hopefully, support keeps coming in or something, and if it's if it goes along with God's will, and if people enjoy it enough to support, then then hopefully I'll do it full time and be able to put out a lot more content. Scott, I'll see you, man. Thanks for tuning in. Nathaniel says, "Are you a universalist?" No, I'm not. I don't believe that the scriptures teach universalism. That's another theological debate to be had, but I just don't believe that with the passages, especially listening to Jesus. I just don't believe that. Vocab, you're telling me to answer this one. Oh, okay. This is Fish Hunters. Yeah, okay, to get back to yours. Many arguments between Christians are about either origins, end times prophecy, Genesis, or Revelation. Do you think those topics are more trouble than they're worth? I think debating on, I think that, here's what I'd say. I think that being humble and realizing that, these things are more complex than people think a lot of the times. And that's what kind of gets me when people try to oversimplify stuff. And it makes sense to me because psychologically, we want to simplify everything so that way we know what to do with it. And then, we can just categorize it here and then it doesn't give us anxiety, But a lot of stuff, I mean, especially Genesis 1, this is something that I think, takes some studying to understand, and it's not as simple as just saying, oh, well, it's just clear as day, you just read this like this. That's not how you do hermeneutics, right? You've got to understand what it is that the author was trying to convey. You also got to understand what was intended to be conveyed, right? I mean, for example, if you look at Psalms and, all this stuff, it clearly wasn't intended to be history, right? Or when Jesus says stuff like, I am the door, he's not saying that he's made of wood, so you can't read everything even the person that says that, everything's 100% literal in the Bible, they don't believe that, you know what I mean? Because you can't have a coherent view. We understand that language, there's language barriers and all too. Like if you speak another language, I speak Spanish. So because of that, I understand that there's some things that do not translate correctly. When there's some words in Spanish that it's hard for me to find out how to translate them into English or whatever like that. And then sometimes when you do, it can be misleading and stuff like this. So if you speak another language, you already understand what I mean. And it's the same thing, So you have to consider that too when you're doing your hermeneutics, when you're looking at the Bible. So. PSEMONTE. Sorry, I just read that out loud because I didn't know how I was going to misspell that out. So I just saw a video used for the first time. That's good. Humble equals wisdom, correct. Let's see. Christians. Ruth Bahila says, advice for Christians that are getting into apologetics. I jumped in too fast. I started a blog about a month ago. I'm 19. I feel like I'm jumping too far ahead. No, I don't think that you're necessarily jumping too far ahead. I do think there's some things to be prepared for. So doing apologetics online is a lot different than doing apologetics in person, right? It's just different. And so I think I take this wisdom from Jesus too, because if you notice how Jesus talked to, for example, the woman at the well, how he talked to her and how he talked to the Pharisees, right? 100% different, So when you're talking one-on-one, sometimes it's going to be a lot different. And it's also what you want to do is you want to be the most effective that you can be when you're talking to people. And this is where you've got to be wise. So like people may not understand sometimes if I take like a aggressive approach, or if I use like humor or something like this to kind of like, kind of what I'm trying to do a lot of the times is to reach people in the best way that I can reach them, to get them to care, because apathy is something that we all have to overcome today. And that's a big problem, is because a lot of people simply do not care, or they don't want to hear. So like there was a time when, and I'm not saying don't do this anymore, but giving your testimony was really effective, years back or whatever. But now we sound like everybody else today a lot of the time, because everybody has a subjective story to tell. And so it's not enough to just be subjective anymore. You have to be subjective and objective when you're talking with people about Christianity. But there's ways to do it, and I talk about this all the time, and I teach on it too. But I know this isn't probably the best place to talk about it. But anyways, know your audience, who you're talking to, and then think of the best way to communicate to them. Just like David Wood's channel, he knows that the Muslim culture is a lot different than the American culture, in the sense where they respond better when people are aggressive and in their face and fight with them. And there's people that I know that are like that. I learned this way where I was working with a guy, and he has an aggressive personality, but fighting with him shows him that I care about him. But I was trying to be nice to communicate with him, you know what I mean, all the time, because I was like, trying to be nice and all this or whatever, and it didn't communicate. So you really have to know that, who you're talking to and what it is that's going to be the best way to communicate to him. And Jesus was a master at this. He knew this when he was talking with all these different people, and he knew exactly the questions to ask them to reveal the core issue that he was trying to get them to see. That's why Jesus was, if you can just study the ways of Jesus forever. And also there's a good book on it. There's a really short book. This is part of it. It's called On Jesus. You can see it, by Douglas Groothuis, who's a friend of mine. And Groothuis, in that book, he argues, or he goes through a lot of the ways that Jesus argued and stuff like this too. So if it's your first time kind of looking at this, it might be good to start with that book and then go through the Gospels again and look at the way Jesus handled people. But anyways, to answer your question, I don't think he necessarily jumped in too fast. The benefit for me with debating online for a couple of years was I got to a point where I heard pretty much most of what I'm going to hear when I'm talking to people. You know what I mean? And so it was a benefit in that aspect. As for a benefit of changing people's minds, I think that it's a lot harder to change people's minds online, a lot harder in debates, in the debate forum. It's very, very hard a lot of the time because you're not engaging with a person. And there's just so much when you're talking to people one-on-one that you can kind of feel and see. You can understand, you can see the hurt or something like that. So anyways, I don't think that's necessarily true, but just pick your goal is my only advice. Is your goal to learn, or is your goal to try to change the world? I'm not saying it can't be done, by the way, too, if you want to debate and stuff like that too. Just in my experience, it wasn't as effective it wasn't as much of a good use of time. But primarily for me, it was because I like the challenge. I like to be challenged, and I like to have the debates, so that way it sharpens my thinking, and then hopefully I can challenge other people's thinking. Okay, yeah, the book Groothuis, Groothius, I believe is how you spell it. The book was called On Jesus. Let's see. Let's see. Dubai Daniel says, what do you think about hanging around the people you're trying to reach? My friends are from Yemen, Saudi, etc. I learned how to talk to them and get them to open up. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. My only thing that I don't like when people do the friendship evangelism is if they use it as an excuse to not evangelize, right? They say, oh, I'm just trying to become friends with this guy so I can evangelize to him one day, and then they never evangelize, But no, I think getting to know the person is huge. We've got to, and this is the whole thing too, pick your thing, and it takes a lot of time. Discipleship is a lot of time, but it's worth it. I think there's things that you can do that you can move people in person that are harder to do online. So I think spending time with people is great. Jane C says, how did you learn to speak Spanish? Have you been to Puerto Rico? Never been to Puerto Rico, but Spanish for me, it's kind of weird. Like, I'm a person that when I want to learn something, I will learn it, and I will spend all my time learning it until I feel like I have it down. And I did this with Spanish, and what I would do is I worked at a restaurant at the time too, which was really helpful because there was a lot of Spanish speaking people that worked there. And so what I would do is I would go home every single day and every single night and try to memorize at least 10 sentences in Spanish. This was my way to learn. I would memorize the sentences as well as I could. And then I would go to work and then try to apply them. But I would do this every single day. And I had phrase books is how I kind of learned. I also used the dictionary to learn up stuff if I was trying to figure out how to conjugate a word or something like that. But for the most part, that's how I learned it. In conversations with the people over and over and over, just really helped to kind of formalize it. Yeah, my only kind of problem now is I haven't been using it as much. I used it when I went to Mexico on a cruise, and since then I haven't really used it too much. So. Okay. Marina S says, how do you know when you're ready enough to have a convo with someone? If you're able to open your mouth, then you're ready to have a convo. No, I think a lot of times we're just too afraid to talk to people, and I get that because I'm a naturally big time introvert, really shy introvert. That's why I like to just read and stay in instead of like go talk to people. But I've learned in time, like of learning to overcome that, and just talk to people. Like, really think about it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? I mean, you'll be okay. They're not going to punch you. They're not going to, you know what I mean? And it's okay, even if they do punch you. I got a lot of people that want to hurt me, a lot of different groups, a lot of different people that want to hurt me, and it's okay though. I mean, I think of the passages in First Timothy, like if people are gonna hate you for speaking the truth, or First Peter 3:14. Yeah, people are going to hate you for speaking the truth, but just continue to speak the truth, but do so in a way where you actually genuinely care about the person. Don't try to just yell people into submission. That's not how Jesus rolled either. You know what I mean? But actually talk to people and start asking questions. That's the best way to start. Ask questions. If you meet a Muslim or a Jehovah's Witness or whatever, make sure to just ask them questions instead of buying books on it and stuff like that necessarily. It's good to have that knowledge, but I think if you're just asking them questions, you're going to find that it's a lot more effective to understanding how to engage with them and what the real issues are and the real issues that you need to attack. Because a lot of times when people say these slogans and stuff like this, those are they're just red herrings. So these things that are out there that people are using, but that's not the core issue. So they're saying all these things like, this is why I'm not a Christian, blah, blah. But these are slogans that they've collected from culture. And that's why part of my goal in the channel is to break down these slogans so that way people can stop using them. And then you know how to respond to them in a way that's going to be culturally effective. So that's my kind of thing. It's like, it's not enough to just give people facts sometimes. You miss the point. If they're using rhetoric, you're just giving them facts. It's probably not going to hit the core. It's going to be more effective because of the rhetoric. And that's how a lot of these comedians and stuff do. So in my channel, I want to try to kind of use the rhetoric mixed with facts. So that way you can understand how to kind of appropriately respond when you hear these slogans and objections. Let's see. By the way, where we got questions coming in, where's everybody from? Just kind of curious where everybody's from. Boom. Can you say something Jesus loves in Spanish? Todos means everybody. Let's see. We'll take a few more questions. Oh yeah, you guys are from all over the place. Is anybody out there in Denver or Colorado? Just kind of curious. I live in Colorado, so if anybody lives in Colorado, very cool. Let me know. Nashville. My wife is from Nashville. And my wife's not watching, but if she does by chance watch this replay, happy Mother's Day. She's a great mother, a great human. There's a beautiful soul. And that's what I love her is like, I just remember thinking like, when I was thinking about getting married and stuff, I was like, she just has a beautiful soul. Like, and she's a beautiful woman, but just, if I took away, you know, her body and everything else, like she's just beautiful. She has a beautiful soul. So anyway, she's a great mom too. So happy Mother's Day. All right. Let's do a few more. Sing us a song. That's funny. Did want to say we have the Islamicizing project coming out. I'm gonna do a video. I'm planning on doing a video on this soon. Man, it's very hard with time right now. I feel strapped, but I'm planning on doing a video on why I am choosing to be in that project, because that project is gonna be controversial. So what we did is this is Wood's idea. This is all the brainchild of Wood, David Wood. He wanted to make a video where he took all these passages from the Hadith and from the Quran and all this, and had us live like Muslims for 30 days. And so it's a mockumentary. And we take a lot from Sahih Muslim and Sahih Al-Bukhari and all this. But we so anyways, we acted out all this crazy stuff, but it's going to be very controversial, but it's all factual. And this is what the whole kind of thing is too, is like, we want people to see this, what Islam really teaches, you know what I mean? You know, or at least the people that accept, you know, the hadiths. I mean, those hadiths that were quoted and stuff like this, and also the Quran too. I mean, if they accept these passages in the Quran. But anyways, we want people to really understand what Islam really teaches. For me too, a big thing is that I am very, very, very passionately against people thinking that if you criticize Islam, it's Islamophobia, and we all need to shut up and let the terrorists continue to bomb us. That to me is just idiotic, right? I feel very passionate about that. And that's a big thing for me, is that I get, first off, I get nasty messages and comments from Muslims all the time. You know what I mean? I get nasty comments from a lot of people, but Muslims is like that kind of consistent thing. Nasty stuff from them, you know what I mean? I'm threatening to kill us and all that kind of stuff too. And my thing about Islam is I don't think it will ever get better because of all the violence in the Quran and the Hadiths and all this stuff too. So it will never get better unless we challenge the ideology, and people know the ideology, because they're smooth, man, and like they're okay, like, you know, lying, you know, because Muhammad said it's okay to lie when you're in warfare and stuff like this. They consider themselves at warfare with America and with Christians and with non-Muslims all the time, even Muslims, you know, because they disagree so much. So they can lie and stuff like this. And so like with Linda Sarsour and stuff like that, like, I don't know if she's intentionally lying or not, but my hunch is that she is. But then again, I haven't watched a ton of her stuff, so I could be completely wrong. But she has to know what Sharia law means in America, you know. And then her mentor, Aman Siraj, is pro. He's pro hurting people for Islam. You know, I remember he said if Islam says chop off the hand, you chop off the hand. You know, he's he's for tearing down our democracy in favor of Islam and stuff like this. And this is her mentor. I mean, like, her agenda, if her agenda aligns anything with his, then she does not have good intentions. And so when she does all this stuff, when she goes and talks to Charlemagne and all this oh my gosh, I can't remember right now. My brain's getting tired. But Charlemagne, and there was radio station, Breakfast Club, I bet. She goes and talks to them, and she goes to all these people, and she says she's standing up for minorities, which includes Muslims, you know, and go against Islamophobes and all this. That stuff, to me, it seems like nothing but a gimmick. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I'm not trying to be uncharitable, but it seems like nothing but a power ploy, because what she wants to do is enforce Sharia law in America. If she enforces Sharia law in America, women do not have rights. So it's just insane to me that, like, you can't even point this out, because if you point it out, you're considered an Islamophobe. That's something I feel very, very passionately against. And so that's something that I'm very willing to fight. Yeah. Nathaniel, you said, should we talk about politics in church or not at all? I mean, it depends on your church. A lot of times these things can create unnecessary divisions. I think that we want to do our best to make peace with all men. I think that, honestly, I think we all need to just be more humble and more open. And this is hard for all of us, because our sin nature provokes our flesh. It makes us want to feel superior to somebody or something, and be more right or something like that. And what's interesting about Christianity is you cannot be superior. You cannot feel superior to somebody and understand the gospel, right? And that's the whole thing, because we're not saved. Like for me personally, I am not anybody's role model. I'm not, you know what I mean? It's like I battle with sin like everybody else does in some ways. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, it's not like I have this hidden lifestyle or something like that, but we need to. I mean, I'm not saved because I'm a good person. Like I mess up a lot. Like sometimes, like even little stuff, like if I use a tone with my wife that, you know what I mean, it's not right. Like, you know, that's wrong, right? You know, and so what it is I'm not saved because I'm a good man, and thank God. I'm not saved because I can do a whole bunch of good, and thank God. I'm saved not because of anything that I've done. I'm saved because of what Jesus has done, right? What God has done for me. And so that's what's so, that's what, I mean, to really understand that you can't feel morally superior to somebody else. You know, you're not saved because you have better theology. You're not saved because you're more, you hold stronger to all these rules or whatever like that. That is not why you're saved. You are saved because of what Jesus has done for you, right? And it's placing our trust in Jesus. You know what I mean? Is that what really gets us saved? You know, and this is why I love the Book of Romans, and I love Jesus' teachings. Like, but anyways, knowing that should keep you humble, and it's hard for us because our sin nature always tries to elevate us. You know, but we cannot be elevated because we're all bad people. Just like it says in Isaiah, all of our righteous works are filthy rags. You know what I mean? We're not. I mean, everybody's objectively, I mean, we're good because we're created in God's image, and then we're bad because we have sin nature, you know? So it's always that battle. So that's my view on that. Let's see. I'm trying to take somebody's that I haven't took yet because I have a lot of the same kind of people. Thomas, Gerald, I got to sign out. Love you guys. Keep doing the good work. God bless you folks. You too, man. God bless you, bro. Let's see. Have you seen Avengers Infinity War? No, I have not. Man, I need to be better at this. I hear, though, I had a conversation with my friend, and he's talking about how it relates to the moral argument in a lot of ways. And so we had a discussion about it. It sounded really interesting. I'm just not a big, I guess I don't have time, really. It's the way I always look at it, man. I'm like, I just don't have the time to kind of watch this stuff. And I'm really bad at that, too. I need to take more time to, like, chill and stuff like that, because if I have like 2 hours open, watching a movie sounds like a waste of time to me. I'm like, I got to get something done, right? And that's a bad habit of mine. So it's something I'm trying to work on, you know. So, all right, all right, a couple more guys, and then we'll wrap it up. Vocab, thanks for holding it down and for me in this moderation. Vocab, again, if you guys haven't subscribed to Vocab's channel, go subscribe. Vocab got he's again a leading voice in the Hebrew Israelites when it comes to Hebrew Israelites. So if you haven't heard of the Hebrew Israelites, you can even check out the video that me and him did on David Wood's channel. It's called what did Wood name it? Fake Israelites or fake something like that. Like maybe 6-7 videos back or something like that. And then I interviewed Vocab about it. It's really interesting. So start there if you want, and then go to Vocab's channel to get more. Built for Speed 101. What up, man? I see you all the time, man. I appreciate your comments. Vocab says fake Hebrew Israelites. Yeah, that's it. So check that video out. It's on David Wood's channel, Act 17. Top 3, Jane C. Oh, man, that's a tough question. That's tough. The Bible, of course. That's hard. I mean, there's so many books that really kind of meant a lot to me. You know what I mean? And so it's really kind of hard to say. It depends on what we're kind of thinking about. I wish I had an answer. I just feel like, yeah, anything I say is not going to do justice, and then I'll be mad because I didn't, you know, say the right thing. Um, let's see, what are your for the channel? What I would like to see in my channel, what I'm thinking about, and you guys let me know what you think. Oh, by the way, always send me your guys' ideas. What do you guys want to see more of? What do you like about the channel? What do you not like about the channel? Because really, I'm here to serve you guys. You know, I'm a person that is like a reformer at heart, where I want to make things better, and I want to help in any ways that God has allowed me to bless or give me any sort of gifts in any kind of way. But I want to serve you guys. So anything that you like about this channel, let me know so I can do more of it. Anything you guys want to see, anything you want to watch videos on, let me know so I can do that kind of stuff. What I would like to see from my channel is I would like, oh man, I just have so many goals. But one of the things is I would love to help people think more correctly and help them be better at defending the truth. And so a lot of times it's showing rather than telling, right? So if I could use like some sort of illustration or some sort of skit, sometimes that's helpful, right? And it's kind of like how Jesus was with the parables, you know. I would also just like to see, I just have a lot to say, is what I kind of think, and I just would love for an avenue to talk more. I'm thinking about starting to do more kind of conversational type videos instead of my kind of standard format. So kind of just like talking like this about different things. I'm thinking about doing that. It also would help with time is another thing, but I don't want to short you guys on quality or anything like that. So if you like that old kind of format that I've been doing mostly, let me know. I'll still probably do that also if I did switch over to conversational type stuff. But my thing is I want to teach. I want to help people, but if people want like to be entertained and I can teach them through showing them through entertainment or whatever, then I'm down to do that too. So it's really what kind of works for you guys. K-Dub True, what up, man? K-Dub True, I like what I've seen from you. I haven't seen a lot, but I like it. Jacob says you should make more videos about the Christian life. About Christian life, yeah, I would love to. I mean, there's so much I would like to talk about with like marriage and all this stuff. I just gotta a thing when if you have a channel and you're thinking about starting a channel, one of the important things is to choose your kind of target audience and stick with that. But you don't want to kind of be all over the place, because if you're trying to reach everybody, you're not going to reach anybody. So I try to stay kind of, you know what I mean? What did people come to my channel for? So actually, everybody that's watching this, if you can write right now, well, why is it that you come to my channel? If you come to my channel often, what is it that you come to my channel for? Because then that will help dictate what kind of content I should be creating, you know. But if people want to see more things on like Christian living or get my thoughts on a lot of stuff like that, I mean, I would love to. So also, so you guys know too, if you are on my Patreon, I'm about to start being a lot more active on Patreon. I'm about to start holding a lot more live conversations, video too, conversations. So if you guys are on my Patreon, or if you want to be on my Patreon, I'll post a link under here, or you can just see the link in any of my other videos. But come on there and we'll chat. I mean, like, I want to get to know some of you guys personally. I mean, that's what to me is very cool about that, is it allows me to kind of get to know the people that are helping me continue, make my channel continue to go. And so I love that. Yeah. So anyways, come there so we can talk too. Okay, let me just check a couple more things and then we'll get out of here. Vocab, you asked me on Twitter, you want to know I haven't seen the Star Wars trilogy. I never watched Star Wars, man. Never watched Star Wars. Never got into it. I know now everybody's gonna unsubscribe from my channel. I know it. But there's a funny video I need to post, because David Wood and Vocab are arguing about Star Wars for like 10 minutes, and it's super funny because they're both just so like nerdy. It's hilarious. But I'm gonna post that video at some point. Abraham Matthew from Doug Life Apologetics says, according to you, what is the biggest cultural obstacle today to effectively sharing the gospel? That would, I think, postmodernism. Postmodernism, the fact that everybody seems to go internal rather than external, right? And this is true in the church and everything else too. I mean, when you look in church history, you don't see a view of how the church is, like how it is today. I mean, biblically or in church history, you don't see people just like putting such an emphasis on their internal experiences and this sort of thing. That is, I believe, it's a remnant of something that's crept in from our culture, because this is if it feels right, it is right. That's a foundational cultural doctrine. My good friend, my very close friend, Joey Fukumoto, me and him talk. We talk a lot about this because we're trying to figure out ways to reform the culture in Colorado, the apologetics culture. And when we trace back a lot of, and it sounds absurd on the outside. So if you think it sounds absurd, I get it. But if you trace back a lot of the that we have, it's because people go inside for truth rather than outside. With everything. So I think when we look at Jesus, right, he wasn't telling everybody to just like, go inside and have a feeling and then you're going to know, because that's like the Mormon claim, right? The problem with that claim is I can't test that. So if you tell me that you had this experience and this is why you believe your belief is true, if you're a Christian, I have reason to believe that. But if you're not a Christian, then and the reason why is because I believe Christianity is true for reasons that are outside, right? If they conflict, you have the Mormon claim where they say, I know Mormonism is true because I have a burning bosom. And then you get all kinds of crazy stuff too. You have people that think like, God told them to do like unbiblical stuff and all this stuff. That's the problem, the danger with the subjectivity, the kind of postmodernism. And so when we're talking to people in culture, the problem is we tend to emphasize like the therapeutic thing. We say, come to Jesus because he's the only way for your problems to get resolved, and you'll be happier if you convert to Christianity and all this kind of stuff. The problem with that is we sound like everybody else, right? I mean, if Christianity is really only about feeling good, then why do they? When people say, "I don't need Jesus," I'm glad you found Jesus, but I don't need Jesus. Why would they need Jesus if it's only about feeling good? Because they probably think that they can feel good through other ways, right? They might feel good doing yoga or whatever else, And so it's this kind of subjective view, and it's just like thinking Christianity will make you a better person. Some people become better persons, better people without looking at God or whatever. They could just like see that their life's a mess and want to do better for the kids or something like that, But I mean, this whole thing, they change their morality based on that or whatever. But the whole thing is like, if you're saying that coming to Christianity is because for any other reason besides that, also is true, right? If you say because it'll make you feel good, because it'll make you a better person, but without saying that it is true and it corresponds with reality, then I think that we run the risk of sounding like everybody else, and people don't see any need to be a Christian. There's a lot of obstacles so that we've got to overcome. But me and Joey have been working for the last couple of years on different ways to overcome them, and we've been trying them, working with people and stuff like that. And so that's something that I'm really passionate about, which I would like to teach on sometime. But I might start another channel for it at some point. Me and Joe talked about it, but we'll see. So, all right, Marina S. Better get that schoolwork done. Knowing Christianity, critiquing Islam, how many days a week do you dust and polish your bookshelf? And what brands do you buy? I don't dust and polish my bookshelf because I'm a G. That's right. Keep it dusty. No, I'm messing with you. My wife probably does because she's like a neat freak. But I don't really do that. My books are so intact too that if there is dust, it's only going to be on the top. So we're all good, bro. What is your favorite apologetic method? That's going to get me in trouble, K-Dub. I'm going to say something and people aren't going to agree, but I would say looking to how Jesus did evangelism. It depends on who he was talking to, which approach he would take to a certain degree, but it's giving them evidence, right? And for some people, evidence might look a little different, but it's giving them evidence, but it's also getting to the core of who they are as a person. So you can't just do one. A thing when we do apologetics a lot of time is we have these canned responses, right? If they say this, you say this. And that there's a danger in that because some people might be saying this, but that's not what they really mean, or that's not really the core of the issue, or that's not really, they're using words different. They don't, sin or hell or whatever. They have different views of all these, right? So you have to get to know the person. You just can't do it without it. Talking to groups is different, of course, you know what I mean, which is why Jesus would talk to the Pharisees different and stuff like that too. But anyways, I'd say model Jesus. Nathaniel, that's a good question. But you got to stop asking me questions, man. I keep answering your questions. You say, how do you answer critics who bring up the Old Testament for laws and stoning of kids or an eye for an eye? I don't want to give a simplistic answer, but the kind of basic idea is understanding hermeneutics, understanding why what a theocracy looked like and why God enforced these rules and why he was separating his people apart from the other people and all these kind of different things. And then understanding everything in light of the New Testament. And also I'd say Paul Copan does a lot of work too in his book, Is God a Moral Monster, but also his other work where he explains how the God of the Old Testament, the God of the New Testament are not different gods. And he shows how they affirm each other in all these different ways too. So I don't want to oversimplify that response, but there's a lot to be said about that. But yeah, I think when you understand everything in the context of God's plan for salvation, and a lot of times too, I mean, it's like, and look at what Jesus said too when he talked about like that he permitted these things because of their wicked hearts and stuff like this, you know. And then you also got to see the difference between prescription and description. That's big too. Yeah. Let's see. Miss Cordy Pie, I answered that question at the beginning, so you can check that out. But I'd say I believe that the earth is round. And I know that's going to tick some people off. And I mean, I'm a person that I value evidence. And yeah, people say that the evidence isn't good for round earth or whatever. I just don't personally believe it. The earth is round. I'm pretty confident in that. But, you know, not to offend anybody. I know you have your views, but I just don't buy a flat earth. It's my favorite topic to discuss in apologetics, Islam, atheism, etc. My favorite thing is to discuss the culture and engaging with culture. As you can probably tell by listening to this video, but engaging culture and persuasion. You look at the early church in Acts and all, they were winning people over not by manipulation or corrosion or anything like that, but it was through persuasion. And I think Jesus was persuasive. I think apologetics could use some help in the persuasion department. I think that a lot of our critics, a lot of the times, can block better with rhetoric and stuff like this. I think Dillahunty, Matthew Dillahunty, when I first saw a Dillahunty video, I was like, this guy, I mean, this is who people like. I was like, his arguments are not good. But now I understand why he's more forceful. I watched his last few discussions, his one with Jordan Peterson, his one on Capturing Christianity's page, his one with Mike Licona. I watched a few of his last discussions, and I think sometimes these people are better with persuasion than a lot of our Christian apologists a lot of the time. William Lane Craig's pretty good with rhetoric. But a lot of times, these people argue in ways that sound commonsensical and practical, authentic, and they appeal to people's emotions. And then when we have these kind of apologetic canned responses a lot of the time, they appear to be the opposite of all those things, right? You know what I mean? Not everybody is convinced by just giving them a whole bunch of facts. You know what I mean? That's not what convinces people. So make sure we keep those things in mind. And I'm planning on just doing a lot of work in this area again, me and Joey. Joey, by the way, he's my best friend here locally, but Joey is very brilliant, very, very brilliant guy. His name is Joey Fukumoto. He's not really online very much, but he's very brilliant, and he's really helped sharpen my thinking a lot. So me and him have this kind of weird relationship where it's like the worst relationship ever, but it's the best relationship ever. And what it is like, we don't let each other get away with anything. We challenge each other. And I think everybody should have friends like that. Like, you need friends who are not afraid to hurt your feelings to give you the truth, and friends that make you qualify all of your claims. So every claim we make each other qualify. And it's like the most annoying thing in the world, but it's so helpful, because he's going to be like, well, why do you think that's true? Or why do you believe that? And I'll say the same thing to him with his beliefs. And it forces us to have to get back to the core of what we believe, so that way we can understand correctly. And then that's really how you learn to think correctly. Asking yourself, how do I know that? How did I come to that conclusion? And doing that over and over with everything. That's how you sharpen your thinking. I think so. Having a good friend like that has been really beneficial to me. Yeah. Matt D is quite emotional. Build for Speed 101. Yeah, in the Peterson debate, man, this is my view. You guys let me know what you think if you disagree with me, but I think that Peterson was way too emotional. I think that Dillahunty had this, just a natural appeal that he had to say, like, hey, I'm just asking questions, well, are you going to let me answer? Like, he seemed very authentic and honest and didn't seem like he was trying. He didn't seem like he was worked up at all. And Peterson seemed really worked up, which is disappointing. You know what I mean? I think, but anyways, so it's not really necessarily the quality of their content or anything like that. It's a lot of the time it's the way that they deliver their message and the way that they gain trust through the audience and stuff like that. Super User, what up, man? I like Super User, man. I love seeing your comments. I always see your comments on my page, and I see it on Wiz channel too. So, anyways, get a read from you, man. Have you ever read The Two Powers in Heaven by Alan Siegel? I have not. Sorry, bro. Matter search too much. This is by I'm gonna mess up your name. Judici Protector. Matt search so much strawmans. Yeah, he does. Where his epistemology gets sloppy. I noticed in the Lacona debate, and this is the thing that you guys are going to have to watch for people. When people want to be skeptical, there is no limit to their skepticism. None. So when you watch this debate with Mike Lacona, I was nervous, Mike Lacona, because he's such a nice guy, right? He's one of the nicest guys, man. And so him debating Dillahunty, I was kind of worried because I was like, Dillahunty, I was like, he might not be tough enough for Dillahunty, but I was actually a lot happier with how he did. And he pointed this out, but what I noticed about Dillahunty when I was watching that debate is he would be so, he would make it where nothing could count as evidence for a miracle or for God or anything else. And this is the same thing that atheists do over and over and over. These skeptics, these people that pride themselves on skepticism, I'm always questioning stuff. You know what I mean? I'm just a natural skeptical person. I think God wired me that way for a reason. But the point of skepticism is to weed out false beliefs and hold true to true beliefs. It is not to weed out true beliefs and hold on to false beliefs, right? And so you have to have objective when you're going to be able to change your mind. And this is why I think when you look at history, you have to say, these are the objective standards that I will say affirm the historicity of something where it's good historical evidence. And then all of the history that you see, you have to put into that category, because you can't have a different set of rules for the Bible or for the New Testament than you do everything else in history. People do that all the time. I mean, honestly, that is probably one of the biggest things when it comes to the historicity of the Bible. And all that is just showing the personal bias. All of our personal bias will get in the way if we let it. So that's why we need to establish objective rules. It's just keeping consistent rules. Like when I talk with people, like to do evangelism and stuff, I don't care what rules they want to use, but just define the rules and don't make a different set of rules for me that they don't keep for themselves. That's it. Same rules for everybody. If you have a set of rules, keep those same rules for everybody. And that's it. You know what I mean? But so anyways, that's something I'm always watching for. And those are the kind of things that you can point out to people without even knowing much about the topic, right? So that's why I think it's important to know how to think more than what to think a lot of the time. All right. What made you become popular, JSB? I'm not popular. So next question. Where do you find these debates online? You can just Google them all. I always follow my critics. I'm not a person that only reads or only watches things that affirm me. I watch more other stuff because I want to be challenged so I can keep, I can stay sharp. You know what I mean? I remember hitting a point at one point where I became very confident in my beliefs where, I was like, yeah, I feel comfortable. I have enough of the picture where even if some things don't make sense, I have enough of the picture where it's still rational for me to hold my beliefs. David, peace out, man. Thanks for joining. All right. Let me check the other thing again real quick. And then I'm about to log off. You guys, last minute questions, throw them in there. Oh, who writes your skits? I write. I think why they're asking this is because we got skits on David Wood's channel, on Vocab's channel, on my channel, and I write all the skits on my channel. Everybody writes all the skits on their own channel, pretty much. Vocab just texted me, so he must not be on it. It says gotta go. David Wood just texted me too, or wants me to send him footage. Not now, David Wood. If you're watching, not now, David Wood. Yeah, and so how to start a channel. Start a channel, do what you like, what you want to see, have an end goal is my only advice to people. Don't just have a channel to have a channel. Don't just have a channel to feel good about just throwing out stuff. It's not that. Have an end goal. If your goal is to reach people, try to reach people. If your goal is to entertain people, entertain people. Whatever your goal is, just have a goal. That's all I want to say. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap up, but oh wait, let me look. I did tell you guys one more thing. Let's see. William Price, I appreciate the work you do for the gospel. Thank you, man. I appreciate the compliment. Yeah, and I don't want to take any credit. I mean, everything's God, you know. I mean, and I don't have anything to brag about or nothing like that. I'm not special. It's good when we submit ourselves to Christ so He can use us. Top 3 Christian philosophers of all time. Yeah, I'll take this question and one more question. Top 3 philosophers of all time. That's tough. I really do very much appreciate William Lane Craig's work, very much so, because the guy has worked on so many different topics, and even if you don't agree with everything that he says or anything like that, you've got to admire the man. I mean, he's worked very, very hard, and it's been published in countless journals, and I mean, he's done a lot for philosophy of religion. I really appreciate William Lane Craig's work. I do like Grotice. I mean, there's a lot of people I like. I mean, I read so many philosophers and stuff a lot of the time. Yeah. So I mean, there's a whole lot of people. I don't want to really single anyone out. If I had to say one of the most influential philosophers of my life is William Lane Craig, hands down. Yeah. Schaeffer, yeah, I was just I'm reading one of Schaeffer's books right now. I was in my room since I'm reading it, and right now I can't remember what it's called, but I'm reading a small little book. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called right now. That bugs me. Anyways, all right, guys. Okay, last question. Nate, 2D Productions. What atheists do you respect because of the way they think, even though you disagree with their ultimate conclusion? I kind of touched on that. I do, now I respect Sam Harris a lot more, which is very weird because I used to have very little respect for Sam Harris, but listening to his podcast and really kind of understanding where he's coming from, he's improved. I mean, he's one of the guys I'd say he's the only new atheist that I wouldn't even call a new atheist anymore because he's actually improved. He's a dualist. He doesn't believe that we're only material beings. He doesn't believe that we're reducible just to our body, you know, just the physical aspects. I share his views on free speech and that sort of thing too. I share his views on postmodernism. I share his views on truth. He believes truth is that which corresponds to reality as well. So Harris is one that. So I'd say that with that, and Dillahunty I've seen grow as well. They both too, the ones I've kind of talked about tonight, but they're the two that I've seen grow. Other than that, I mean, I'm not very impressed with almost every other atheist that I've seen, I mean, at all. And yeah, that might sound rude or whatever, but it's true. I'm just not impressed with their arguments. Even them, like Sam Harris and Dillahunty, I'm not that impressed with their arguments at all, but I have more respect for the way that they think, and I appreciate the fact that they grew and they're willing to move, you know, but other atheists, like, I mean, personally, no. If you guys think there's some atheists that are really challenging, write them down below so that way I can check them out, and I'll watch them and see what I think. I guess for me next, I plan to do a lot more videos. I want to do videos on. There's a video I've been wanting to get. There's a couple of videos I've been wanting to get to. One is showing how the new atheists are like the Westboro Baptist Church. This is one I've had in my head for a long time. But the basic kind of idea is that there was a recent poll taken where it showed that 85% of atheists don't agree with the aggressive approach and the way that the new atheists handle things. They disagree with the rage and everything like that. They don't align with them. So in my mind, they kind of ruin it for all the other atheists who are actually pretty cool people. It's like the majority of atheists seem to be, given that poll, cool people. So I'm kind of relating that with the Westboro Baptist Church, and I'm just trying to think of the right creative way to show it, so that way I can do what I do. I like to do stuff where I want to set up a frame where the atheist doesn't want to affirm the stereotype, you know what I mean? Or I do this with everybody too. Like the recent video I did with blacks, I'll call out what I know that they're going to say in advance, so that way they can't try to use that against me. And if they do, then it's just funny because they did what I predicted they would do, right? And I think that cuts down on a lot of this hating that you see. So I'm very intentional about a lot of stuff too. Even if I don't seem like I'm intentional, I'm thinking things through to some degree. Also, I want to do a video on morality. I see too many memes on morality that say something to the effect of, if you need God to be a good person, then you lack empathy, not religion, or something like that. There's so many dumb memes like that. And there's so many dumb memes out there. I mean, so little time. There's so many. And I have like my scripts and content and stuff, whatever, like, the outlines and stuff for all these different memes. I just have to have the time to do them. So I think in my mind, I'm about to start another job here soon, and time's going to be even more strapped. And so I'm a little worried about being able to spend a lot of time on the channel, but I'm going to do the best that I can to keep getting out content. Nathaniel, I disagree. You respect Harris, but you don't respect Harris, but you respect Shermer. I think Shermer is one of the silliest atheist debaters in the universe. His arguments are so bad, and they're the same thing every time. And he gets called out on them, and he just doesn't want to make any changes. Like, Shermer is probably one of the worst to me. Anyways, next live stream. I'm gonna be doing live streams with my Patreons more, because those are people that's kind of been helping to take care of me. So I'm gonna spend more time trying to take care of them too. So if you're any of my Patreons watching, I'm sorry I haven't spent as much time there. So I'm just trying to figure out how to balance all this stuff. Honestly, I am, So, but I do want to do a live stream. I don't know. We'll see. If you guys enjoyed this live stream, tell me. Maybe I'll do another one. Depending how this one goes, maybe I can start doing them, maybe 2 times a month or something like that, or maybe once a month at least, depending on how much time I have. So that's it. So I really appreciate you guys. Thanks everybody for your supports. Thank you guys for watching. This has been a really long conversation too, and it's just good to hang out with you guys. Again, to let everybody know too, you can go ahead and on my page, more for video chats one-on-one and stuff like that, and talk about a lot of stuff. If you're able to go over to the Patreon, awesome. If you're able to support, awesome. If not, I'm going to continue to keep pushing out content for you guys as much as I can. And just keep me in prayer. Everybody that's watching, keep me in prayer. Life has gotten a lot more hectic and a lot more busier. And so just continue to pray for me. Once this Islamicized comes out, I know the death threats are going to go through the roof. I mean, they're already bad. But I got a lot of people that want to hurt me. And it's funny because people want to hurt me for sharing ideas. And a lot of different groups after me, you know what I mean? People that are critiqued. And all that does is make me want to hold the ground more. I mean, that stuff will not shake me. I am not intimidated by these death threats and these threats of violence. I have no problem dying for what I believe in too. So if people think they're going to intimidate me by this stuff, they are completely wrong. I'm not afraid in the slightest bit of all these people and all these threats I keep getting. So none of that's going to shut me up. As long as I have lungs, I will always be preaching the truth, telling people the gospel and all this, because I completely believe it. So yeah. But anyways, keep me in prayers, guys. And yeah, it's really good to chat with you all. See you guys when I see you. Peace. Now I just got to figure out how to stop the stream. There's the button. Peace out.